Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds looking back and rereading the entire Brandon Sanderson series involving the Cosmere. I am ReaderWarrior, and I am joined by Swiggity Swoo.
My heart hurts and nothing will ever be okay again.
We have DragonKieran back with us again.
Hey, everybody.
We have Juan back with us again.
Glad to be back, everyone. I'm Juan.
We've got John.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And Kay.
Hey.
And today, we're finishing off Mistborn, The Final Empire Part 4. And we are all dressed for funeral, because holy cow, does this episode just suddenly kick into ninth gear with very little warning.
It's the Sanderlanche.
It's the Sanderlanche, last 100 pages.
It is officially the Sanderlanche. That is correct.
Does anyone want to say anything before we get started on chapter 30?
Let's get started.
Let's get into it.
Make it quick and painless.
Alright, so chapter 30. In this chapter, Vin is again at a ball. And she is in the
Who would've
venture
guessed?
ball.
Big surprise.
Wow, what I caught wild. So she's again at a ball, and she's in the venture ballroom. Which is very fitting because her first ball was also at the venture ballroom. So it's very fitting for her to be at venture again. So when she walks in, she immediately knows that she's like, this feels weird. Something's wrong. She doesn't know what it is. She doesn't know what's up. She feels like there's something wrong, and she talks to Sazed, and Sazed is like, yeah, it feels weird. And he's like, I'm gonna go to the steward's dinner early so I can try to figure out what's going on. You should also try to figure out what's going on out here, and start talking to people because we showed up late. So Sazed leaves to go to the steward's dinner to try to figure out what's going on, and Vin tries to go talk to people. She ends up going up to two groups of people, and both of them act really weirdly. The first group, makes very quick excuses to leave once she joins their group, and the second group just ignore her the entire time until she leaves. And after she leaves the second group, she realizes that the first group has reformed. She's like, that's weird. That seems
Welcome to high school.
Yeah.
She's like, what is going on? So she goes up onto the balcony to go get a better view to try to scope out more what's going on. And she notices that everyone is in these groups. There's not a lot of mingling going on. She's like, this seems really weird. And she sees Kliss nearby, but Kliss is talking to a group. So she's like, okay, I'll wait until Kliss is done, and then go talk to her. Sazed comes out of the steward's dinner and immediately sees her and rushes up to come talk to her and tells her that they found out that Hastings has canceled their ball. Cal has canceled their ball. Alariel has canceled their ball. So all of the big houses have canceled their balls. And this is the last one that's going to be held for some time. So that's why everyone is standing with their closest allies and their biggest supporters.
That's a big deal, though, right? Because,
yes.
in previous chapters, they talked about how, or Kelsier said, oh, they're going to have balls up until the war starts, and then probably sometime into it. So the fact that they're canceling all these lets you know that it's about to get crazy.
Yeah. It's like, oh crap.
War has come.
The house.
Well, how much of that is a bias of
to start.
Kelsier against nobles?
A little bit, but also it's like, oh crap, the nobles don't want to be playing face with each other anymore. Because that's what they do at these balls. They play face and they politic and they pretend like they're friends with people that they don't like and that they're enemies with. So now they're not doing that. They're not going to be doing that anymore, which is a big deal. So Vin is worried about this. Sazed is like, oh crap, Kelsier is supposed to play an informant tonight and doesn't know this information, so I need to go tell him as soon as possible so that he has this information so that he doesn't lose credibility. So Seiza leaves, hires a carriage, and goes to Clubs' shop to tell Kelsier. Vin decides to go talk to Elend, because she realizes this is probably going to be her last chance to talk to him for a while. And she also noticed that he wasn't in his usual spot. And she sees him over, and he's sitting with his family. And she's like, that's weird. So she goes over to talk to him and, like, gets him to come over. And so he essentially tells her that he knows that she's been lying to him and that she's not who she says that she is and that he doesn't want to talk to her anymore. So Vin is very distraught about this. She doesn't know how to take this. And then Ellen kind of leaves. So Vin is very upset about this and is really sad. So, and Kliss comes up and notices that Vin is upset, and she's like, "Oh, did he finally spurn you and throw you off? It's okay. Don't worry about it. He's gonna get what's coming to him." And Vin is like, "Excuse me, what? Hold the phone. What?
What?
Wait, what?" So, uh, Vin finds out that Kliss is an informant. Not just a court gossip. She is actually
Yeah.
an informant,
And a good one at that.
and a very good one at that.
She's
and
the
knows
informant.
that she's
Yeah.
the informant for, like, the court, and that's why everyone comes up to talk to her, because she's an informant and she knows all the information. And she knows that Vin was spreading spreading lies throughout the court, trying to spread lies throughout the court. Vin uses allomancy to force information out of Kliss. And Kliss is like, "Oh, that's why he brought you. You're an allomancer. I won't tell anyone as long as you pay me, as long as you make sure that your uncle pays me to keep quiet." Vin is like, "Well, shit. Well, crap."
Which
But
I'm just gonna jump in here because
yeah, you're good.
it's just like interesting because technically, her finding out that she's an allomancer is like such a big, in a sense, almost payment
Mhm.
that it's like my payment is it's like her, in a sense, if she had a bargain right, which obviously she wasn't in her right mind, she just got dumped. It ain't no fun, but it's like technically, if she had a bargain right, the knowledge for knowledge is, hey, I'm an allomancer, and that's enough knowledge. But since she gave it freely, it's now you have to pay me to keep your secret,
Yeah.
rather than using the secret as the payment, and now I have to keep it because that was the payment. That was part of the payment, was to keep it secret, but to have this knowledge.
Yeah.
That's actually a really
Anyway.
good point. I had never
Novelty.
considered that before.
Yeah. Because if you make it a part of it and they betray their informant, then that loses your credibility as
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So now
But-
you can't use that information if it was the payment. But she didn't. She just used it. She just used allomancy, and it was like, oh, now you got to pay me to keep it.
Yeah.
In which I would also like to say that it's another example of the person not having a power and using it sort of, and having the fact that it's the opposite of having a power that gives them a power. And how, based upon what you don't say, I know things that which will relate with the fight with Sean.
Yes. So, leading up to that, she finds out that Elend is planned to be the first casualty of the House War, and that House Alariel is planning to send assassins against Elend tonight. As soon as he left for his study with his friends, the assassins were supposed to be sent out to strike. Then, even though Elend has just dumped her, and crushed her heart and soul, still loves him. So she decides that she wants to go save him. and
She
keep him from
realizes it.
dying. So she quickly rushes out, and she realizes she's not going to make it through the corridors because she doesn't know the castle. She doesn't know the keep at all whatsoever. So she finds a window and she breaks it open, busts out, flying through the air, tears off her dress because it's weighing her down, and soars up in the air to try to find out where Ellen's rooms are, but she doesn't know where they are. So she uses her bronze to try to sense it. And she's focusing, and she's like, I can't sense anything because they have a copper cloud. They definitely have a copper cloud around them. She's like, and then she hears something faintly, and she hears the pulsing of someone faintly. So she goes after it, and she finds them. She finds the Allomancers, and she realizes that one of the Allomancers is Shan Alariel. That Shan is a Mistborn. She is not just a soother. She is a full Mistborn.
Sweet.
Mhm. So Vin strikes against them first to try to catch them by surprise, and knocks one of the thugs down, and ends up within the fighting. She pushes him through the skylight into Ellen's room, has him break the skylight into Ellen's room, and she's like, Ellen, I hope that's, in her head she's like, I hope that's enough warning for you to get out of there.
I know you're thick, but come on.
That's a really cool moment too. She just comes down in the center of their little group, and the way it's described is like she rips open her bag of boxings and just shoots them all around her. It's so cool to imagine.
Yeah. So she starts to run, but then she realizes that Shan is going to chase her down, and Shan is not going to let her escape from this confrontation. So she confronts Shan on the walls of the keep, and they start fighting, and they use, both of them down their ATM.
I love Vin. Wait, she pushes the bead out of the vial, then pulls it into her mouth. That is awesome.
Straight up coolest
really cool.
Mistborn move
And
in the book. Just like whoosh.
This is only the second time that we've seen her use ATM, or anyone use ATM. So it's very cool to see how it works, and she's seeing their arrows being shot at them as well during their battle. So she's able to see the arrows flying past her. So she's able to dodge those as she's fighting Shan and trying to get an upper hand. She realizes, though, that Shan has more ATM than she does, and she's not going to be able to get Shan to run out of ATM. So instead, what she decides to do is she decides to trick Shan. So she extinguishes her ATM early, when she still has a little bit left, to make Shan think that she has run out. So Shan, overconfident, comes in to kill her, and then Vin quickly turns her ATM back on, grabs an arrow out of the air, and stabs Shan in the chest, which I just think is really cool.
That is an anime moment.
Shan, it is. Shan hasn't gone down quite yet, so she takes it breaks in half. So she takes the other half and stabs it again down into her to kill Shan. And then she leaves the body there and then dips to go back to Clubs' shop and escape.
Fatality.
That is the end of this chapter.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
There are things in this chapter, though, that I do want to mention in the spoiler section.
Spoiler section. All right.
Oh my
I
gosh,
wanted
can't
to
wait.
comment. Vin wore white the day she was to kill an assassin.
True.
Which is the opposite, kind of.
Uh-huh.
It's cool that she
Vin's the one.
But she didn't
Yeah,
wear
to
white.
save the-
Technically, it's Vin
like her
wore.
shift.
Yeah, she
I
wore
guess her white.
whatever, but she tears it off and she says specifically white shirt and trousers
Yeah,
or
she has
something.
like weird
Yeah.
undergarments.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I was thinking like her initial gown.
Nah.
Right.
But that's like
Uh,
another symbol for her, like dropping this facade of being this noble woman, right? She's like,
Mhm.
I care about Elend and I don't really
Literally-
care about these politics. Like,
hmm
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Literally
go be
rips it off.
Mistborn. Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
the little comment how Sean wears her mist cloak, sort of, not like a mist
Fashionably?
cloak, but
She wears
fashionably.
it fashionably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like thrown over her shoulder. Like,
That was really funny as well. I was like, of course she does.
Yeah, of course she did. And Vin's the one to begin the house war.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She
Oh boy.
officially begins the house war.
I had one little like descriptor that I just thought was so beautiful in this chapter when it talks about the lights being cast on the dance floor. It calls them shards of light, and I thought that was an awesome way to describe that.
Right. So I had I had another thought as far as like I don't know. It's just something that just like I think about every time I read it. Is she says it's too big to search the entire mansion's roof, but wouldn't like so with she can pierce the mist, and she could just push herself high enough to see the whole roof.
But it's still dark.
It's still dark in there, like she doesn't have coins, and also I'm guessing it's not on like a level.
But she does have
thing.
coins. That's the point. She has a whole bag of coins.
Oh
She
yeah,
breaks
she
it when
does.
She lands.
Yeah,
She
that's
doesn't
true.
need coins because the entire roof is metal. So she just shoots
Yeah.
herself up with the biggest, strongest anchor she's ever used. So she goes really high, and she just flares tin, and you just look.
Yeah.
And there's
I guess-
right, and there's skylights where there's lights in it. So then you just look, and you're like, oh, look,
It's more the
group of
speed
people.
of it. Like they're trying to emphasize, like I gotta get quick. Like I can't waste time
Right.
looking around. I think
right.
that's what
And
we're
this
talking
is
about.
something that we can kind of continue the discussion around the spoiler section. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
she flares her bronze and she's able to find him, but she kind of does it out of desperation, and it's just like it's just interesting that that's her first instinct, even though she knows that likely they're gonna be hidden.
Yeah, but
So
I'm assuming it's not on,
later. She pierces copper clouds, like it's
Mm.
this section, right?
yeah,
Because she talks to Kelsier, I believe, in the next chapter about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's like, I don't know,
I
it's
think it
interesting
was-
that that's her first instinct instead of just push herself up and just to look.
I think it's also partially just a way
Plot
to.
device.
Yeah. It's it's partially a plot device, partially a. Maybe this would be her first instinct, but
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
We
But
just
also,
don't
like,
get it
I'm
'cause we're
assuming
not
it's not on
Mistborn.
like level ground, and you can't. This is the one thing I really hate about like Hishi and stuff. Like, you can't compare characters' thoughts to how you would react and stuff. Because in that heat of the moment, they're on
Right.
fight, flight, panic.
Right, exactly, and that's why
Yeah.
she's going to go with whatever instinct is first, which I guess she like had to use bronze enough
Mhm.
to think about that rather than just like looking. But like my first thought is like just look. But of course, like different things. My thought's going to be very different reading it for the 25th time
Yeah.
versus.
yeah.
Yeah.
listening to it. Anyways, just something I think about every time I read it. I'm like,
I just
wonder
wanted
if it would
to.
have worked in the same way. But
Sorry.
it wouldn't have introduced piercing copper clouds. So
I just wanted to point out again how much like Chris is like a genius in her own field. Like
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of like obvious the dumb girl play and the whole like image you can hide behind and everything, but like I think Brandon like did it so well. The first time I read the book, I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue that Chris was like this like smart and mischieving and everything. And yeah, I love that small character.
Yeah, she scams
going
the
back-
crew. Because in
Yeah, she
32, they
does.
talk about how they had to pay her off after all this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oy, oy, oy. She scammed the Ska
scamming
thief
truth.
that stole from the Lord Ruler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate her name though. I don't know why. It's like how some people don't like the word moist. For me, it's Kliss. Like I don't know. I just
But going
Alright.
back to what I was saying about it earlier, like this is how we see it a lot with Vin's teaching. It's about not necessarily what the power is, but what it isn't. And this is how she defeats Sean. She dampens it early and then uses just the fact it exists as a sort of flashbang to surprise.
Mhm.
Right. Like, oh, look, there's an opening. You could hit me. But then not really.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a fake out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright,
Chapter 31.
Reader.
Yep. Okay, so Kelsier and crew are back at the club's shop joking around when Vin finally returns. Of course, everybody, having flashbacks is like, "Are you okay? What happened?" Spook has a anime-sized nosebleed.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. He totally does.
Nice.
Vin explains that she killed Sean outside Keep Venture. Kelsier asks how she could be so foolish. And Vin says it was to protect Ellen. Kelsier gets angry, and Vin just snaps here. So much so. Oh, I love it so much. She basically says, "You guys are not noblemen," and I wish I could read the entire passage at the time. But this is my favorite Vin scene, I think, in the entire book.
Same.
Berating them for not being real Ska and how she's had to suffer in ways they have no way of knowing. And we have seen throughout the book, like, building up that fact that they are more noblemen than Ska. Even Spook gives her the handkerchief, and that's a nobleman act of affection. Kelsier, when he's at the pit, teaching the soldiers, he's like, "There's an act that nobles do if they have a disagreement." These are not Ska. And it's just, Vin just snaps. I love it.
Yeah, I just wanna say it because I just really like it. Is the like, what do you know about them, Kelsier? When was the last time you slept in an alleyway, shivering in the cold rain, listening to the beggar next to you cough with a sickness you knew would kill him? It's just like that, like intensity that she's like, you don't know what it's like. You haven't had to live this way. You're not you haven't had to live like I have. You haven't experienced what I have and what a lot of other Ska have. You don't know what it's like. So stop pretending.
And it's Vin finally letting loose. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I've had dibs on this chapter since the prologue.
Yep.
So Vin's now outside on the roof in the mist, and she's now worried that her outburst is going to mean they're going to leave her. She's not worried about the fact, like, oh, what I said was mean or wrong. She's worried, oh, they're not going to like me anymore. They're going to leave. Come on, poor soul. Kelsier enters and asks what really happened with Ellen. Vin explains how Ellen broke up with her, and Kelsier says he understands that pain. And Vin finally reveals that she loved, past tense, Reen, even after everything he did to her. She reveals that voice that's kind of always in her head, that everybody always leaves her. And she talks how, even with it, Reen saved her initially from her crazy mother who had killed their sister. Vin had a sister! And she asks, when will you leave me? Kelsier doesn't answer, but we know it's about 3 chapters.
Sad.
He says...
Spoiler, bro.
I still hate him for that, though.
He says he will try to be worthy of being a Ska. Vin reveals that Venture is in charge of the ATM, and then she reveals that she does not think Mare betrayed him. Vin explains and shows that it is possible to pierce a copper cloud. And she does so, and for a moment she hears something far away, which is not at all important, and then focuses on Kelsier, and which she's like, wait, you're burning pewter, and then tin, steel, and it blows Kelsier's mind. He's like, I've spent how many hours with my master, and it should be impossible and it's most likely due to allomantic strength and how one person can be stronger than another in terms of allomancy. Sort of how we saw with the pushing match all the way at the beginning of part 2. How she was able to hold her own against somebody who was heavier than her.
The way Lord Ruler can make people feel his soothing through their copper clouds and their zinc, or their zinc.
So he compliments her, says, "We're gonna make you a proud person," and then he says to come back down. Then we jump to Elend, who, like everybody else here, I'm sure, is dealing with trauma the best way possible.
You finally
Reading a
got
book.
your Ellen chapter.
I got my Elend chapter, finally.
I mean, if you're Brandon, it would be writing a book, but I'm close enough.
Yes. He snuck out with his friend Justice and is currently hiding in his carriage, in which Felt, more on him in the spoiler section, finds them and says he followed Sazed to Klebs' shop and says likely a thieving crew hideout and lists all the ways that it's not just an ordinary place. Ellen realizes that Vin is a ska and orders Felt to secrecy and that nobody will attack it. Ellen and Jastes, Jastes,
They pronounce it
etc.
Jastes in the
Yeah.
audiobook.
Jastes
think
nuts.
Jastes is how he pronounces it. Jastes.
Yeah.
Jastes.
So, but pronounce it however you want to, and now we have like 7 different versions for people to know who we're talking about, and they'll continue calling it whoever they want.
I'm just gonna call him Jake.
Jastes. And Ellen argue about Vin. Ellen feels relieved that she is a noble, and Jastes is like, yeah, but she was still trying to scam us. He's like, but she was a ska, and she completely fooled everybody. Which, always looking on the bright side.
And that kind of proves
Ellen
his
returns.
questions about
I like
whether
that
or not,
Jastes is
like the ska
Right.
are smart, right? Like,
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. I like how Jastes is like, you're the only person that would be happy to find out you're gonna get robbed. Like,
yeah,
It's just money.
And he's like, yeah, Ellen, most
Spoken
people
like a rich
care
man.
about money.
it's just money, dude. Like, come on, how loaded do you have to be to like, no, I got
Spoken-
mugged and had $1 million taken from me. Well,
yeah.
Spoken like a 1%er.
ideals. Those are ideals that you can only hold if you've never been hungry a day in your life, right? Like, yeah.
Ellen returns home to Straff, who glares at him, and I swear he wanted Ellen to die. Like, he planned it so Ellen would die, and there was probably a
Yeah.
deal.
Do we
He
know that
did.
if
We know that.
there
we
were
know that he removed the
was
guards from
in
the ceiling.
He removed the guards? Okay.
Yeah.
He removed
yeah.
the guards from the roof.
He literally glares at Ellen, and his
we
first
learned
thought
that
is,
from
wait, what?
Cliss.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I didn't know if there was I just wanted to say it specifically.
Yes.
For it to be out there, yes,
I
Straff
missed
sure
that as well.
100% planned for his dad to die, for his son to die.
Yeah.
Father of
because-
the year.
He wanted the nephew or something to have the power.
Well,
What a
he
nasty
just
piece of work.
he didn't want Ellen to be.
Yeah.
He didn't want Ellen to overtake it. He would rather have someone else.
In
be
which
in
Cliss
charge.
says a nephew, in which we never hear of this nephew again.
Maybe it's someone else.
Yeah.
Huh.
But Straff glares at Ellen. It's probably like, how are you here? He's told a Mistborn was going to kill him, but their guards stopped them because, ordinary guards shooting down Mistborn is such a common occurrence, and that there were some slight reports of a third Mistborn protecting Ellen. And Vin goes to bed wanting to talk with Vin.
Ellen.
And that was pretty much
Ellen goes to bed. Yeah.
Ellen goes to bed. What did I say?
Vin goes
Vin
to bed
goes to
wanting
bed.
to talk to Vin.
Okay. Ellen goes to bed wanting to talk with Vin.
I don't know.
She
When I
burns
go to bed,
gold
I want
again.
to talk to myself too.
Yeah, I'm a great conversationalist.
That's what dreams are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Telling
just
yourself
your
a bedtime
Mind
story.
talking to you.
I've been
I
wanting
love
to
this
say
chapter.
some of these names do sound French, and I know there's a lot of French inspiration behind it. And Jastes in French would be geste, which I don't know if I find it way cooler or just as cool. I don't know, but just does sound like a whole lot different. So
Yeah, I
just
do
wanted
know
to.
that he did say that Kelsier's name was supposed to be Kelsier.
Yes, yeah.
Was
Technically,
supposed to
everyone
be French
has a French.
pronounced,
It's
but
because it's Terrace. The language they speak is Terrace based, and Terrace based is
Would that
the
be?
Terrace language is based like a derivative off of French.
Would you pronounce
Hmm.
that Terry?
Uh, yeah, we would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always
Makes
read
you
it
think.
terrace.
Yeah.
Terry. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
How does that make you feel
Yeah,
inside? It's
could say so.
Terry. I don't
Let's
know
just
what
keep
you
calling
say.
him Renox.
Yeah,
listen,
Knox.
I called him Redox for so long in my head.
really?
Yes,
Mhm.
and Demox. Like that's how I pronounced it in my head for so long until I like listened to the audiobook and I was like, "Oh, interesting."
But I was so happy to finally read this chapter.
Yeah, I do want to say like this is I think my like favorite scene. Maybe not of the whole trilogy, but like of this book. I
Mhm.
absolutely adore this scene. Like
Mhm. I
because
love
it
it.
speaks so much of like her evolution and just of like I had this whole like thought in my head this whole week while reading this part again and again. Which is like there is also this whole thing, like of course they don't live like Ska, but I'm somehow convinced that they're able to do all that and to be all that and to bring all that change because they like because they're more than just ska, because like as we've seen many times, just like ordinary ska and the one that are really beaten down and the one that live in poverty and everything, they are not the one who will be able to actually make a change. And I think we have to point that out too, that yeah, they're not in that very low sphere of the like ska people, but sometimes it does like benefit the whole people to just have people that yeah are able to make it out, I guess.
In which I think in the next chapter, Vin at one point says Kelsier is what a nobleman should be like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homicidal
Yeah.
maniacs. I think he is.
Mhm.
I liked how Vin told Kelsier that she doesn't think Mare betrayed him. I thought that was really sweet. It shows that she was kind of thinking about that and turning the gears in her head about it after they had that conversation. And her main trait being at the beginning of this book that she doesn't trust anyone. And then
Mhm.
having her come around and say, I think you should believe in Mare. That was really powerful to me. That made me tear up a little bit.
Yeah.
This chapter is it definitely shows Vin's growth throughout the
Yeah.
book really well because Vin from chapter 1 would never have screamed at her crew leader or
Yeah.
anyone
Or
else
anybody.
or anyone else. Like
So true.
she would not have done that. And
Mhm.
like yeah.
She would
Yeah.
never even tried to like instill hope either.
Mhm.
Like I think that's probably why this is one of the most memorable scenes in the book, is that this shows exactly Vin's evolution as a character. Like we saw it last part with her seeing herself sort of in the bunker, in the rafters, sorry. But here we have like a audible physical scene of her letting loose for once.
And I think it starts like it's introduced in the chapter right before, when Cleese tells her about the assassins, and she goes to stop them, and Cleese is like, "But why? Like he just downed you." And she stops for like a second, have that, and she's like, "I
I
love
love
him."
him.
And
This is beautiful.
my girl.
That's part of
Yeah.
it too, right? She's kind of blowing off steam over this whole Elend drama when she's yelling at the crew.
Yeah.
She's in a bad state of mind.
And that's also why she feels bad about it, is because she knows that it's not their fault and they don't deserve her yelling at them.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't hurt once in a while to like. Alright.
Okay, we got to pick up the pace, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, I can do that because my notes are very slapdash this week. So feel free to jump in if I miss a thing. So start out. Vin and Spook are sitting at the top of a large Scott tenement building, and they're kind of watching as Keep Hastings is getting raided again. They talk about whether or not the Lord Ruler wants the House War to happen, why he might want it, and they kind of also Vin speculates in her mind about what the crew is going to do with what's going on and the remainder of the plan, and how even though it was kind of a disaster, they really did a great thing for the Sky Rebellion. There's all kinds of new information from the logbook, and they've kind of shown that they can fight back. That's what they kind of like in the text. She talks about that. So
Yes.
Yeah, but like she says that, but like, is there anything important in that logbook really
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
Sky Rebellion?
Not
To
really.
the Sky Rebellion. To Sazin, to the terrorist people, though, there is.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
get
I
what
mean
you're
it's
saying.
another potential source of information. So,
Mhm.
let's see, where was I?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So Vin talks to Spook and tells him, that she got dumped, which they weren't actually courting officially, so she didn't really get dumped, but that's semantics. She was dismissed. And that she still isn't interested in Spook, but she still wants to keep the handkerchief because she values it for the symbol of their friendship and kind of how she's grown as to be a part of the crew or whatever. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. I knew it wasn't going to happen anyway, but I tried.
Oh boy.
That poor boy.
Good old Spook.
And then Spook gives her some advice on how to be a good Tin Eye, saying it's not about what you can see, it's what you can ignore when you're trying to see. Which she kind of takes to heart and thinks about and learns that lesson a little bit. Kelsier shows up and nearly startles them off the roof.
I love that he makes a joke about how they really need to come up with a warning system for when someone's coming up so that someone doesn't fall.
So that the next person isn't a Mistborn.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like this is from the wrong section, but I guess they Vin and Kel talk a little bit, and Kelsier kind of says, well, maybe he sent you away for your own good. Maybe he was trying to keep you safe.
No, that was this section. Kelsier defending a noble. Kelsier defending a noble.
He can learn, people.
He's starting to change.
So the two of them, Kelsier and Vin, go off to run some errands. And first they stop at another Ska tenement building where Kelsier goes to visit Ska and kind of interact with them. And we find out that he's been bringing them food and kind of supplies and helping them out as best he can. And that he really does actually have a bond with these people, which probably ought to make Vin feel just a little bit silly, given her outburst in the last chapter.
No.
Because she does say that he doesn't. It doesn't seem like a link like equal to equal, but more like a feather to.
That's true, and the Ska that are in that tenement kind of look up to him as a lord, or maybe starting to see him as a bit of a deity. Maybe
Jesus figure.
Something, yeah.
A prophet.
They
Oh, they
Refer to
Prophet.
him as the survivor and
Lord of the
as
Mists.
Lord of the Mist.
Yeah,
This is the
and Vin
first time that we
actually-
hear Lord of the Mist.
Yeah, Vin comments on how that was a new one. So after that, they go to meet Marsh, and when they arrive at that location, they are met with a bloody, chopped up corpse. Yay, gore! Oh boy.
The second of the crew has fallen.
Dearly beloved, we
We're
are gathered
gathered
here
here.
today to mourn the loss of Marsh.
Marsh Iron Eyes. No last name.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, they find a note that Marsh had written to them, talking about how he feels like he can't quite get the secret of the Inquisitors, and that they feel like they're onto him, and they've taken an interest in him, but he just can't find that secret. But he feels like he's close, and that's kind of the end of the note. So Kelsier, when he gets this information, basically hits the panic button and sends the crew and everybody off into a backup layer. He tells Renew to leave with a bunch of the barges, but then Renew is supposed to stop a day out and come back. And then after he gives everybody orders, he says he will see them in 2 days, and then he takes off for a mysterious destination. And then we get a new perspective character, a fellow named Waylon, who is frantically...
No.
Oh, what I missed?
It's Wallen. It's Wallen. He's in the wall.
It's
It's a bad word.
the audiobook is pronounced Waylon.
Cut this.
He's so proud.
We
You are
put
way
all
too pleased
readers
with
bad
yourself
puns,
about that
right,
pun.
Swiggity?
Okay, I guess that's my time.
We can, yeah, I was saying, we
Okay,
can cut
dad
that
jokes
out,
are
right?
accepted.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this is all gone. I'm trying to mute Reader specifically. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, anytime reader speaks.
Just kidding.
You can silence me, but you can't silence the truth.
So, Wallen is hunting around in these cracks in the ground
In the wall.
in
Don't,
the wall.
don't give him any more credit than he
Sorry.
needs.
I know he's already doing like the quagmire.
His freaky dance is bad enough.
What are you doing?
Keep going about Waylon.
You all know I'm right.
So now we go into the perspective of fellow named Waylon, and he is crawling around in some cracks in the ground, looking for these crystals that are very sharp, and they cut into his skin, and he's reaching down into these fist-sized holes, looking for geodes. And at one point he finds something squishy, which turns out to be a corpse, and he's like, yeah, whatever, don't care. Must find geode. And then when he finally does, he climbs back up to the surface, and who's there waiting for him but Kelsier?
Our buddy.
And Kelsier tells him to go and crack that open and sell what's inside to the rebellion for as much money as he can get. And then he kind of musters up his courage to face the fears and the flashbacks and the horrible memories, and climbs himself down into the pits using his allomancy to find the crystals and their residual traces of atium, and he pulls on them and shatters them and destroys the pits of Hathsin, which in turn destroys all of the atium production for the Final Empire and crippling the economy for centuries to come.
And there's a great line. Kelsier says, "You tried to destroy me, Pits of Hathsin. It's time to return the favor."
Mm-hmm.
Because talking to a
badass.
geographic formation is
It's a great
Because
line.
Kelsier is a drama queen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
don't you make
Okay.
fun of my tiara.
Was.
Okay. First of all, it's such a huge. Remember in the first couple parts when they were warned to do not try to sell atium because they hunt that down. You try to sell atium, you'll get caught by inquisitors, you will die. And now he's basically sell that. Everything's so screwed up right now. You can get away with selling the most important metal in the world.
Well, he specifically tells him to go far away and sell it to the rebellion because that would be safe.
Sell it to the
Yeah, the
underground.
underground.
Or the underground, not the
Yeah.
rebellion. Yeah, you're correct. Close enough for, government.
I actually wondered because like there's this whole thing about like Kelsier. By the way, I've never even read it Kelsier in my mind. I've always like Kelsier, but anyway.
Brandon says it's fine to read it and talk about it, Kelsier. Even he does it. He says
Brandon's
Kelsier.
wrong.
I just think it's funny, and I like to
Oh, yeah.
cast him as the angry Frenchman because I don't know.
we
It's
do
just
that,
funny
yeah.
to me.
With his mustache.
No, but because there's this whole thing about like Kelsier and his scars and him like surviving the pits and everything. But when all those men and women, all those people come out of the pits, and obviously like now we have thousands, I don't know how many people, hundreds of people with scars that also survived the pits and that
Right.
actually got freed by the survivor. Do we know anything about them? Like, do we ever like hear from
No,
them?
not really.
It never talks about them again.
Yeah, okay.
But and he talks about it is that it's more closer, probably like it's implied that it's more like in the dozens rather than like because he only has a couple hundred guards to guard the pits, and you always want the number of guards to you generally want the number of guards not to be terribly outnumbered by the people that they're guarding, because otherwise they can just be swarmed. So if you only have a couple hundred guards, then you're likely to only have in the dozens, if maybe 100 scum
Yeah.
in there.
Which we see now how Kelsier got his scars and how those they
Reaching
joked about
into
it.
those lacerating.
I still
like
love
that-
reaching into a monster and choking it on the inside.
That's the best one.
I do like that Kelsier tells the man after he pulls him out. And he's like,
Wallen?
who are you? He tells Wallen, well, Waylon.
Wallen?
Ignoring.
This went on
He
for
tells-
several more minutes.
He tells the man that he's like, who, like, what are you? And he's like, I'm what you're gonna be. I'm a survivor. And it's like kind of like imparting that like you're going to survive this. You're gonna make it through, which is just really nice.
Doesn't he say I come to spread hope too? I think that's one of his
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
He says that to the people he visits, I thought.
Yeah, true.
Oh,
To
when
the-
he's giving them food and stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I had it written down for this chapter. I couldn't remember what part.
Yeah. There's so much in these chapters we would like to talk about, but we do not have the time.
Yeah, we need to.
Ugh.
I mean, Sandalange.
Can I just say this was
Yeah.
like this is one of my favorite scenes of the book, though. I mean, I don't have much to add to it. It's just really satisfying to see, and it's awesome that he goes and does this, even if it is out of rage. Like, I just think it's so satisfying.
Like, I would love to argue about how Allomancy destroys the atium, and at which point does him burning steel versus him pulling on them causes that damage, whilst we see with tin just burning that causes that fracturing. Like, at what point does it happen? Who knows? On to the next chapter.
I had a theory about that, but okay.
In the spoiler section, we'll talk about that.
Okay, so chapter 30 something 33. So we're at the backup layer, and basically the plan is dead. Like, we have the whole crew talking about like, well, we're not doing anything now, I guess. And kind of saying like it was a nice adventure, and then we'll just be off. And Vin is like, what? And Breeze sorry, says something along the lines of, "We work as we please," saying like they don't work as a usual thief crew. They just choose the job they want to go on. And then we have Kelsier coming back from the bits and basically just casually saying, "Oh yeah, I destroyed the bits of Hudson." Like, yeah, I was busy this morning, sure. Um, and so just as John said before, he basically crippled the whole allomancy based economy for the centuries to come. And then we have an apprentice, sorry, coming in, announcing that they're apparently planning more executions. So just like the one we had before, with like the blood fountains and fun stuff, all that, yeah. Woo! Hi! No, sorry.
Skipping over all the good parts, man.
Yeah. So team obviously goes out to watch. Not obviously, Kelsier is like, yeah, I'm responsible and I'm gonna watch, and the whole crew is like, yeah, I guess, okay, yeah, us too.
Kelsier accepting responsibility?
Oh my god.
He's
We said
growing.
character development, okay? Leave the boy alone. Okay. And they soon notice that Spook and Renou and the whole house staff are in the carriages that are bringing prisoners up to the fountains to be executed. So of course, Kelsier jumps right in and ends up face to face with an inquisitor. Um,
Vin tries to stop him again, and
Yep.
he's like,
So
he's
glad
like,
you brought this
no,
up.
you stopped me once before. You're not gonna stop me again. And he's like, you have a lot to learn about
friendship.
friendship.
Yeah.
Such a good line.
And not just any Inquisitor. It's your boy,
Say-
the one who's been
Who's looking-
hunting down Vince since she was a child with a poster board and yarn and trying to figure out where she is for the past 17 years.
He really looks like that. Like he sounds like a maniac.
The
But
nameless, dedicated Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a name, but we don't know it yet.
oh yeah, that's right. So Kelsier is in this one-on-one fight, and we see Ham coming back with one of the soldier units that they hid in the city. So Kelsier is like, "Oh, that's where you were." And he starts. So Ham and the unit start freeing the prisoners, and then we have this amazing. So we have Ham freeing the prisoners, Vin and Dachshund and Breeze back. Are they on the roof? I read that. Yeah, they're on the roof, right?
I believe so, because later
Yeah.
Doxson asks Vin to help him down.
Yeah, true. So they're basically there, and Vin is helping as she can, which is soothing the crowd with Breeze. And we have Kelsier who starts fighting this Inquisitor, who at one point just like casually grabs someone and kills her just for the sake of it, I guess. It's like, oh, I'm gonna annoy you. Okay, sure. This. Thank you, Inquisitor. And I think we end up there. Yeah, it ends there.
He doesn't just get. It's because Kelsier's whole thing is like, oh, I'm just gonna remain out of your reach, and it's just gonna just stall for time. And he's like, well, if you're just gonna stall for time, just like.
Yeah, he really. I actually like don't understand why the Inquisitor wants so badly to fight with Kelsier. I didn't.
Because he's like the one who keeps getting away.
But
You know-
he actually wants the girl, so. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't want Kelsier to flee. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Kelsier asks, like,
And
oh, there's only one of you? And he's like, yeah, I won the lottery, bro.
I love that
think-
line.
I think he is also hoping that their fight will draw Vin out of hiding to come help
Mm.
Kelsier. because he knows that she's connected to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
most
we
likely.
forgot one important detail. Elend is there too.
Is it in mine?
No, it's
He's
the next chapter.
Oh,
No,
no,
it's
it's
the
the
next
next
one.
chapter.
Yes, the
no,
next
he
next
shows
chapter.
up in yours,
Reader.
doesn't he?
No, he doesn't.
No, not
No,
yet.
he doesn't. It's not until the
I'm
fight
sure.
gets serious.
Yeah.
Get your chapters right, reader.
Gosh.
So focused on all the puns.
Never. I could have sworn there was a comment about him in that chapter.
Well,
Yeah,
while you
yeah,
find it.
there is 559. Valette, a voice screamed. Kelsier turned in shock. A well-dressed nobleman was pushing his way. Valette, Ellen Venture yelled again. Who told you to raid house for news convoy? Don't question me on Ellen.
I should have known better. Sorry.
I will always
Oh, I think that was
you.
Melland.
No, that's Hoyt.
Whoa.
Yeah, Ellen is there too, looking for his girl.
Yeah, as you should. She's
It's
better than
like
him.
one page before it's like the final page of the chapter-ish.
My bad.
No, you're fine.
Oh, also, I wanted to point out that I find that Kelsier's line about you stopped me once, and like I think it's so unfair to Vin, because obviously the situations like are so different. Like here you can like we're like they're in the city, and of course like you can get away and stuff, but man, you were going like to go by yourself on the battlefield against a whole army, like that's a whole different situation. Like don't compare stuff like that. That was not fair to my Vin.
Yeah, I love. First of all, the Inquisitor smiling at Kelsier, sort of reversing that parallel of Kelsier, always smiling. And you can see perfectly Kelsier pulling out two bottles, tossing them to the side, jumping into the circle, and pushing on everybody, creating this bubble for them to fight. It's like perfectly in my mind. I want to see this in a movie.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't-
As chaotic as it is. Like, I can picture it.
Wait 3 years, you'll see it.
Sorry. Didn't one of you note at the very beginning of like somewhere in the books that Brandon seems to adore the move where someone goes point first in someone else's
Yeah.
face?
Kelsier's
And
signature
I think-
move.
Yeah, and he does it again. Is it here or is it in the next one? I'm
He
sorry.
does it in 34.
34. My bad. I'll bring it up later then.
Because I thought of that too. I was like, he always does it. Signature
Yeah,
move.
I saw it. I mean, I would too if I could. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Must feel great.
Should we go to 34?
I think so.
No, we're gonna stop here.
Okay, this has been
That's it.
Stay tuned.
Okay, everybody. We are gathered here today. Dearly beloved. We are gathered here to mourn the loss of my favorite character in a lot of books. Maybe all of books. But before we get to that, we got a few things to cover. So,
Like
right off the bat.
Ever.
Yeah. I'm just going to read to you the beginning couple sentences of this chapter because I think they're awesome. It says, "Dead and dying men collapsed to the cobblestones. Ska crowded the roads. Prisoners cried out, calling his name. Heat from a smoky sun burned the streets, and ash fell from the sky."
Let's say it one more time.
It's so good. So Kelsier immediately burns Atium, but so does the Inquisitor. He jumps to avoid an axe and uses his signature move to kick the Inquisitor, which we just discussed. He pushed off Soldier's armor and throws a soldier at the Inquisitor in kind of a gravitational slingshot move, and the soldier and the Inquisitor smashed into a Ska cage, and the Inquisitor starts to bleed. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Bye.
The Steel Inquisitor is unfazed by this. He just smiles at Kelsier, and then turns and launches the whole cage at Kelsier, who has no time to dodge and is in front of a building, so can't just jump away. He jumps, and he lands he fits into the door frame of the cage, and steel pushes all around him to keep himself perfectly centered in it as it crashes.
Just
Legitimately
wild.
badass.
Which is just
Uh-huh.
one of several anime moments in this whole section. It's so awesome.
Pushing in every single direction at once.
It causes the Inquisitor himself to like give Kelsier a little nod of approval, like, okay, that was pretty tight. Like, so the Inquisitor nods in respect to Kelsier, and then he explodes the cage, the Inquisitor does, and Kel pushes all the iron bars at the Inquisitor and then shoots himself towards him as well. They both end up flying into the air, pushing off of soldiers, which, by the way, I feel bad for all the random soldiers who just get thrown around in this fight. In the air, Kelsier sees troops with bows aiming at the escaping prisoners, and he uses iron bars from the cage to deflect the arrows. Basically, like, he's pushing them in the air, and then he's, like, spinning them around. Like, and I think he could only really do this because he's burning atium, and so he can see where all the arrows are about to go.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so anime and badass. Ham leads the army to rescue the prisoners, but the last cart is the one that has Spook and Renew in it. So they finally get out, and who shows up? Elend. And he's holding Renew by the collar, and he's shaking him, and he's like, Where's Valette? Where's my girlfriend?
He literally like slams her to a wall and like grabs his vet. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, because he
So
thinks she would
worried.
be in there, right? Like, she would if, you know, her cover is who she is. She's Renew's cousin or whatever. But,
Uncles.
yeah, Kel,
She's his niece.
yeah,
Oh, I said it backwards.
she's his uncle. Kelsier's like, okay, this guy's starting to annoy me. And he basically yells at Elend and says, like, hey, she's fine. Get the heck out of here. You know, this is a war zone. But guess who else shows up? The Inquisitor. And he immediately axes Renew in the back, which we should talk more about in the spoiler section.
I mean,
Mm.
I believe it says Renew, like, as he's getting axed, looks at Kelsier and Kelsier nods.
Yeah, there's
Kelsier, like,
And then he dies. And you're like,
and then he dies.
I think
Nah, he
what it
died.
is like, he's like starts to get up or something, and Kel just kind of looks at him, and he's just like, play dead, dude.
He does. He gets up with an axe in his back. He's like, fine. Lays back down.
I don't know what you're planning on doing, but I got this. Which it mentions the word Kandra again a lot in this section, which if it's your first time reading, you still don't know what that is, but we know that Renew is one of them. Anyways, Kelsier fights the Inquisitor, and it's basically Neo versus Mr. Smith from the first Matrix movie, except with significantly more technical steel pushing and iron pulling. Vin
Looks
realizes...
so cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
He
you can picture
pushes
it, right?
against two different points of one iron bar, pushing and pulling,
Mm.
that nobody
Was it-
else has ever been able to do.
Yeah, it's
And then he's got
his
like
specialty.
all of the things flying in the air. He's flying in the air. He's not touching the ground at all, just confusing the Inquisitor.
Mm.
It's crazy.
Showing his pure mastery of the pushing and pulling. Like,
Yes.
and Vin even says, like, oh, that was his area of expertise. Like, the one he trained me in specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I think the way I like to picture it is like that Inquisitor was just getting overwhelmed by all of these objects flying at him. And
Yeah,
he's getting so
there's
used to, like, pushing them back. Go ahead.
there's a little technical point in here where because Kelsier is burning atium, every piece of metal that he is controlling produces a pile of atium shadows. So there's like, not only is there like a real swarm of metal bits and bobs floating around him at high speeds, but then there's also all of the atium shadows of them
No,
flying around in
one-
every which way.
each one still only projects one extra ATM shadow, but it effectively doubles the number of items there.
I
It specifically
fine.
talks about as soon
Explosion,
as an item leaves someone's a Mistborn that's burning ADM's hand, then it immediately gets a single shadow. So, but it does double the effect, and if he's controlling 2 dozen, 3 dozen pieces of metal, you suddenly go from 24 or 36 to 72 pieces of shadows blocking you, plus Kelsier's own shadows. And
Which he's, like,
jerking
dodging
around
and-
above the guy, so he's
Yeah.
creating a few hundred shadows, plus an extra, half a hundred to 100 shadows. It would
And all the
then make a
soldiers.
very, very confusing mess.
Like all
Right.
the
And
other
all the
people in the
soldiers.
area too, right?
But I love the image of him just he's just bouncing around in the air because of all the because of the big circle of soldiers. He's just boing, bouncing around with all the metal. Anyway,
I left one thing out, and it's just simply that the Inquisitor was about to axe Elend, and
Mm-hmm.
Kelsier makes the distinct choice to save him because he thinks Vin loves him, which is
He
character
knows Vin.
growth. Yeah,
It's your boy.
it's character growth. He saved a nobleman.
He did it.
Should I just keep going?
Yeah.
So
Let's get it over with.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. This is the part of the story that I don't want to tell, and you don't want to hear. He's attacking him. He's got all the shards flying. He's got all this ATM shadow cloak, and then he leans down and he picks up some cobblestone, and I guess pewter dashes over there and just starts pounding on the Inquisitor's spikes and nails him to the overturned cart, basically. And then he reaches down and he picks up one of those obsidian axes and he cuts off the Inquisitor's head, which is just awesome. I don't know how else to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. Kelsier's like, I did it. Maybe I won't have to. And then the Lord Ruler shows up.
Oh boy.
I would also like to point out at this point the Ska start getting angry and start
They
getting
cheer.
ready. They cheer for Kelsier and they start fighting the soldiers. They start pushing against the soldiers, and you can tell that it's a riot is about to start. And then the Lord Ruler shows up.
Yeah, you're right. The Ska are it says the soldiers realize they're surrounded, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, the Ska could actually take this. Until our friend the Lord Ruler pops in.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, buddy,
Your
old
friend
pal.
and mine.
So this is the first time we're seeing the Lord Ruler. This is the first time we're getting a description of him, and it's kind of interesting to see that he's actually he's young and he's actually kind of handsome. And he's just got long black hair and nice black robes and
It has white detailing.
Yeah.
Well, it's
The
a black
dude's-
and white suit, is what it says. That
He's got
it's
the
not
drip.
a robe
With
like
a very
Inquisitor.
long
Think
jacket.
of the old because he talks about it's a long jacket that's split. I believe it says he splits into 2 and it drags on the ground. So it's almost like the old butler style twin tail jackets,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and but it's so long that it drags for several feet behind him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of almost like vampirical.
Yeah.
Dracula would wear. So, as we were talking about, the Ska are rebelling, so they're pumped up, and they stab the Lord Ruler twice, and he just shrugs it off. He just keeps on walking. He's like the Terminator, and he
Doesn't
looks
even
at
flinch.
yeah.
He doesn't even look. He just continues to walk towards Kelsier.
He's like, I've been stabbed. So he gets to Kelsier and he looks at the dead Inquisitor, the decapitated Inquisitor, and he's basically oh, those are hard to replace. I don't know why he's Norm Macdonald. Those are hard to replace. But then he looks at Kelsier and he's like, I killed you before. And Kelsier says, "You tried, but you can't kill me. Lord Tyrant, I represent that thing that you've never been able to kill, no matter how hard you try. I am hope." And then the Lord Ruler bitch slaps him so hard he flies off the screen, and it goes melee. He slaps him, and it rips off like half of his face. Even
It
like,
wipes the smirk off his face.
Yeah, I love that note of yours.
Only like half the smirk anyway.
Yeah, he spikes him like a volleyball.
It breaks his neck and literally deforms the half of his face
Yeah.
in one slap.
Backhand.
Which is why we're here today. To mourn the loss, because then he follows it up with he pulls out one of the spears, the Lord Ruler does, and he stabs our boy. He stabs him good.
Just to make sure.
Just yanks a spear out of his own body and then
Let
The
the
double
executions begin.
oh yeah.
Gosh, we should talk about this more in the spoiler section. I feel like there's things
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course Vin jumps in and it's just like, no. Sobbing.
Yeah.
He did leave her. He left her.
Vin comes. Ham and the prisoners mostly escape, except for the ones that are being killed by Inquisitors who just showed up. Vin goes over to Kelsier's body, and like you're saying, she's having that no moment. And the chapter ends as Reen's voice whispers in her ear that everyone will abandon you eventually.
And Ham picks her up and like pulls her out of there.
That's right. I
quickly
wanted
as
to
he
mention
can.
that. Every time Kelsier talks, he's always saying like, "Oh, it's time to do this. It's time to do this." Like he's like, "It's time to go. It's time to spread a little mischief." He always says it's like it's time. So I just thought it was interesting. Like Ham shows up and he's like, "It's time to go, Vin." Like because Kelsier's not there to say that anymore. If Kelsier was here, he'd be like, "It's time to record a podcast."
Mm-hmm.
So sad.
Any other additions to the coolest ending of a part / saddest ending of a part? Besides, we have Renew dead, Kelsier dead, lots of random people dead.
Well, Renew quotation marks playing dead.
Can't say that. We don't know anything
We
about
don't.
it
Yeah,
yet.
that's
So
all.
stop
We
saying
saw
that.
him get up, sigh, and lay back down.
We
No.
did. Yes, that is in
Yeah.
it. Is that he is leaning up against the cart.
Yeah,
and
but
Kelsier
Yes.
looks at him
And then he
makes eye
sighs and falls
contact.
over and he says,
Yeah.
Ham, Renew is dead.
yes, yeah.
Story.
So
He's
yeah,
dead. Move on.
Doc says that he
No.
could be dead or he
But
could
even
be alive
Doc
based
said
on
it's
that
not
wound.
sure if that can kill a Khandra.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So make it ambiguous.
Quotation
Stop
marks
stop making it as if he's not.
Listen, if you don't see a
Renew is
body,
dead.
which I guess there technically is, but I was really sad reading through this. Okay, my boy passed away today, and I'm sad.
I think it took me like, I don't know, maybe 10 reread to stop crying every time I came up to that scene. Like, I just it gets me every time, even now. But it really, it was hard, man. It's hard.
The
It's
first
very
time I read
hard.
this book, I almost put it down and walked away from it when he died. I was like, no, this is not allowed.
Am I just
Can't
callous
do
that it
this.
doesn't affect me?
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
The first time you read
I'm
it,
just like, oh, that's sad.
the first time,
Anyway.
even the first
Anyway,
time. you
moving on.
read it- Wow.
Cooler things are to come. Let me
I
keep
was
reading.
heartbroken.
I remember screaming and I was like, hell, nope, not happened, nope.
I kind of saw
I
it coming.
distinctly remember saying no, closing the book, and repeating it, repeatedly slamming it on my desk. Because I'm pretty sure I was in class.
That's how you know that's a book till you need to suggest to someone else, right? Your
Mhm.
heart gets
Yeah,
ripped
right.
out. You're like, hey, you should read this book. Get your heart ripped out too.
This book emotionally scarred me for life. He's like, oh, I'll avoid that one. No, you have to read it.
No, you have to read it.
If
I
you
will say
were-
the I Am Hope, that's when I got my 10-year anniversary, not the leather bound, but the other one. That was the quote that Brandon gave me. on that. So I've got
Nice.
Iron Hope, Brandon
It's beautiful.
Oh,
I
it's
love
nice
that.
one. But the whole part where Vin is like, no, not you, like you can't leave me. I was way too young the first time I read that, and that became a whole part of my personality. And I was like, nah, yeah, children. I mean, it's a good book for young, young teens, but definitely like check with them because they're gonna get so involved with this, and they need to understand that it's okay, and people can go sometimes, and it's okay. Yeah, poor Vin.
That's just Reen's voice. Just drown it out.
Everybody will leave you.
Yep. Anything else before we move into spoilers?
This was a tough set of chapters. There's so much that happens. It just
Standard
you start to pick up, and then the treadmill just like never stops. It keeps
Yeah.
going. It keeps getting faster and
It'll
faster.
go through the entire next part.
It's far from over, right?
It's
Yep.
far from over.
This is just the beginning.
But it's not just the beginning of the
It's weird to-
podcast. So we should keep
It's
rolling.
just the ending.
Like it's so much so that the next one only has like 4 chapters and 1 epilogue. Like that's so small in comparison to what we've been doing a lot recently.
We should move into the spoiler section.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so before we move into spoiler section, next week we will be finishing off the book. Maybe we might save the epilogue for another episode and use that to talk about the entirety of the book. But next episode, we'll be talking about part 5, Believers in a Forgotten World. And we've already got some people calling dibs on some chapters. Some of them are thinking about it. Others need to read. But we would like to thank you so much for sticking around so far. We're going to head off into the spoilers section. If this is your first read through, we recommend you stay here, wait for the next episode, because we will talk about spoilers, everything relating to Mistborn and the Cosmere. But if this isn't your first read through, we highly recommend you stick around because we do like to talk about things. So, in case this is goodbye, this has been ReaderWarrior, and I have been joined by Swiggity Swoo,
I'll see you later.
DragonKieran.
Enjoy your time.
I'm just Juan.
See you guys next time.
John.
I linger as a cognitive shadow.
And Kay. Hey,
Good night.
and we hope to see you next episode. And we're back.
It's getting
Okay.
harder and harder to think of those little goodbye things.
Everyone
just like, "See you
who
later."
hasn't read every single book in the entire Cosmere is going, "What the heck is a cognitive shadow?"
You'll
Yeah.
find out when you read Secret History.
Oh boy.
Which,
Okay, so
since we're
Which
on
is
that
probably why I
subject-
don't care anymore. When I see him die, I'm like, that's so sad. And now he's back killing other people.
yay.
across
Yeah,
the
that's
entirety
true.
of the Cosmere this time. But it's
So
it's
I'm like, I'm not that sad anymore. Like, it's like heart wrenching in the moment, but I know he becomes, in a sense, starts becoming a big baddie elsewhere and just starts murdering people. So I'm like, meh.
No, but like the thing is, even if it's like he becomes much more than that. I think Kelsier is still dead. Like Kelsier and like what he meant to the team and like
Mhm.
his character is
Yeah.
dead, and that's sad.
That character is dead.
That piece of the character is dead for sure.
it's
Pour one out.
totally that moment from A New Hope
Just
where
pour
it's
one
like,
out.
if you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. And then Vin is like, no! And like, come on,
Yeah.
kid, we gotta go! Like, it
Mhm.
is 100% that scene. And it even uses the whole hope tag. Like, I am
Yeah.
hope. in A New Hope.
A New
It's
Hope.
Except
I love it.
Kelsier is like he's more like Anakin. I feel like when he comes back, he's like a Darth Vader figure now. He's like this
I
big,
Yeah.
mean,
bad
if you just
entity.
replace Youngling with Nobleman, yeah, you totally got that.
Okay, so let's try to rush through these spoilers. Anything in chapter 30 with the ball episode, the ball chapter?
No, I forgot that the thing that I wanted to mention was actually in 31 because it was with the bronze. For some reason I was thinking it was in 30.
Do we know who Ellen's nephew or his cousin is? They're not talking about
His
Zane.
No, they're not talking about Zane because no one else knew
No.
about Zane.
Yeah, so like, is there another Venture we just don't know about?
Yeah, I mean their
Ostensibly.
lines are extensive. They're a lot of the nobility's like somehow semi-related to each other in some fashion.
That's
Yeah.
Melland.
It is.
Whoa.
It also wouldn't surprise me if it is, well, yeah, it's probably a cousin or something of Ellen's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we haven't heard about.
Right. Because the whole point is that everyone thinks that Strath only has one kid,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
2 dozen.
Mhm.
Not, yeah.
Yeah.
30.
Maybe it's a cousin in the same way that like the Lopen has a bunch of cousins.
Sure.
Hey, he's my
Never
cousin.
enough, Concho. Never enough.
He's my cousin, eh?
You can never have enough cousins.
Easy, gone show.
I do want to say I love in that chapter Vin wondering if this will be the last time she wears a ball gown, and then we have kind of that important plot thread in Well of Ascension, how she kind of looks at the gowns, wants to wear one, but realizes it's not the time anymore.
Yeah.
Right, but which is interesting because it's like it's an important thing, but at the same time, it talks about she wears ball gowns until Ellen proposes. So that means in the interim between book 1 and book 2, she starts wearing them again,
Yeah.
and
She
then she
does?
stops. Yes,
Yes.
I just read that
she-
part.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
finished the ball
Yes.
gown scene like yesterday. So it's
Okay,
like
but we don't see her wear a ball gown
you
until
don't see her wear a ball gown until they're in Strath's camp, which is literally where I
Yeah.
am right now,
Yeah.
I love that.
listening to that today.
Hmm.
But
Such powerful. One of my favorite uses of Duralumin is that scene.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, I love
Okay,
these.
Actually, Duralumin. Oh, yeah. Go. Sorry.
let's focus. Can we continue talking about this book and not the next book?
Because we are
Yeah.
getting close
Well,
to
it is
2
the
hours.
spoiler
It's
section.
a spoiler section, but
Yeah.
I know,
um,
but we're
Okay, but
getting
are we
close
doing
to
let's
chapter by
hours.
chapter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
or
anything
kind of
for
just wherever.
chapter 31.
Chapter 31, there is the mention of her hearing, then hearing pulses.
He hears the Well of Ascension.
Far off, she hears the Well of Ascension.
Yep.
Which reminds me of like I guess if I was picturing this like a movie, it would kind of be like the Jumanji board game.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just kind of
Jumanji.
it's like
The
calling out to you.
Jumanji like beats,
Yeah, she can hear it off in the distance. Like, what is that?
and everyone's like, "What the heck is going on?"
It's also Ruin's pure tone.
Is it really,
Except
or are
for
you
it's
just
not
making a
Ruin's
joke?
pure tone.
It's Preservation.
It's
one
Well
of theirs.
Preservation.
Yeah, it's Preservation's pure tone.
Yeah, because it's his power. in the
Yeah,
Well of
I got the.
Ascension.
It's the
gets weird.
tempo. Yeah.
Also, Fett showing
the
up.
tone.
Felt showing up.
Yeah, Felt
in
shows up.
this.
Yeah, who is that? I can't remember who that is. But I remember
He-
that
He's
so-
the
name.
guy who.
Yeah.
in Dalinar's flashbacks, he's one of Dalinar's elites.
He's
Ardens.
No,
he's
he's
not
one
an
of
Arden.
he's one of his
He's not an Arden?
elites.
Okay.
he's
he's
just like
one
one
of-
of his trusted kind of friends.
Yeah, it's one of his elite soldiers, his friends, and he mentions so when they go to see the Night Watcher,
Mhm.
this is fun, is that Dalinar's like, Felt, you've gone to see the Night Watcher before. Did she come and like talk to you? Did she give you something? And he's like, well, she didn't come out to see me. She doesn't like foreigners.
She doesn't like foreigners.
She
She's
doesn't
like,
like foreigners. And he's like, well, maybe she
What do
won't
you
come
mean?
out for me. What do you like? Maybe she won't come out for me. And he's like, I'm a little bit more foreign than you are.
I'm more foreign.
I'm more
My
foreign. I'm
God.
I'm a Scadrian.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Planet
Yeah.
hopper,
This
no
is
big
my
deal.
origin story that we're reading.
Wow.
But yeah,
That's
he's
crazy.
a Smart Dragon Archive. He's a world hopper. How? Who knows?
Well, I mean, so does Demu. Demu becomes a world
Yeah.
hopper too.
Demu
Yeah,
is
but we
also
know he's in the 17th shard. Like, we don't know what Felt is doing.
Yeah.
Anything for 31 with.
We've already
Um,
said it.
I mean, but
I'm asking.
we now know why
Anything
the
else?
she's able to pierce copper clouds, which is
Yep.
because she has the stud, and so she's technically a double bronzer, just a double seeker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's got
So.
that hemalurgic spike.
For those that
Yeah.
may be wondering, like may have read it but not made that connection on this new reread of theirs.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, her baby sister was
A seeker.
Was a seeker.
a seeker, and
So I want to know more about is how did Ruin get enough of an influence on her mom to drive her crazy to spike her sister in order
She
to
was
get
already
something like.
crazy.
she was already crazy. So
Was she
people-
already crazy, and so Ruin influenced her, or did she
Yeah.
act crazy because Ruin was influencing her?
Well,
It's-
Nah, because you
it's-
need to be crazy to be influenced.
Yeah, so
You
it's a
don't
little
have to be
bit,
crazy to be influenced. You could be
yes.
spiked to be influenced.
but
but
I
without
don't
a
you
think
can
spike,
also-
you do have to be crazy.
Yeah,
You don't
without the
have
spike, you have to be crazy.
Yes, without the spike, you have to have some sort of cracks in your soul.
I don't think she was spiked. I think
She
it
wasn't
was just,
spiked, so
it
she
was
was crazy.
It was just
I don't
that
know.
she was
I
crazy.
never saw. I never see a
and
mention of either one, but could have
Well,
been
yeah.
crazy.
think-
She was spiked, and then she just heard the voices.
I think it was that she was crazy and so he was able to influence her and it made her more crazy.
Yeah, like Zane, sort
so-
of.
Yeah.
Because
kinda-
Zane is spiked, so that's
Yeah,
how
but
he
he still thinks he's crazy.
right.
Yeah.
and it makes her
I don't know.
them more
I'm gonna
crazy.
pitch this out there. I know a bunch of people hate Zane, but I think I really like the character of Zane. But we'll deal with that in the next book.
Yeah,
I was
let's
into
deal
it.
with that in the next. Okay, anything? So that was 31. Anything in 32? We see firsthand account of Kelsier's religion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
what's
So I wanted to bring this up. When Marsh becomes an Inquisitor,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we can talk about
Spoilers.
that now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, spoilers, right? It's only spoilers for the end for the next podcast.
Marsh is alive.
Marsh, what?
But
Pour one
does
back
that
in.
mean? But he also at the same time he broke. But they didn't go
No.
there to torture
No.
him.
So
No,
we
he didn't break.
How
so
how did they
so
know that? How did they know to capture Renew?
we
That was
just
actually- I
we were
brought that up.
talking about so Reader brought this up before you got on when we were just talking, but it's that so throughout the book that Inquisitor that Kelsier fought
Yes.
has been tracking Vin and has been tracking Vin for years
Yes,
and
since she was a kid.
since she
Mhm.
was a kid. Slowly, we've been getting hints. We've been getting noticings that he's still on her trail because he
Yes.
killed Cayman's crew. He killed Theron's crew. He's still on her trail. I think it's that he
Yes.
found out that she was in Renew. She was pretending to be a noblewoman in Renew's entourage, and so he went and planned an attack on
Mhm.
the barges to try to capture her because he wanted to take her alive so that she could tell who her father was.
Which
Her
explains
father
why
and what
he's
does
the
he do?
one. Yeah.
Which
Which would
is-
explain why he's the one.
And so he's the one who's there because he's the one who's been tracking her all this time, and he knows that she's connected to this crew. So I think that they were using it partially as a this is what happens when a nobleman sides with a ska, they get executed, but also as a way to try to lure her out,
Mhm.
to get her to come out so that he could find her, so
Yeah.
he could get her.
I was confused about it earlier because it seems like they're just trying to push that Marsh is dead, he broke twist. But yeah, I'm with Kay. That makes a lot of sense. That it's just been that Inquisitor and he hunted them down all the way.
Especially because we learned that the day right before he came on Theron's crew, right?
Yeah,
Early,
Okay.
like a couple
Earlier,
months
but, like,
previously.
No, it's like the day before
was a-
the.
it was
Okay,
a while
I just
ago.
confirmed it
by
on
now.
17th
No.
shard.
She's like,
You're right, Kay.
oh, this one is a day old.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, when?
That
When, where?
was when we got the first map from Marsh about the soothing station.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
My bad.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, so that was so it was a little while ago when that happened.
Yeah.
But
I
you
was
are
confused by it
correct
too.
that they did.
Yeah. I was confused by that too, Dragon. But we
just-
see the spike chamber kind of, and how they literally spike a person through another person.
Yeah.
And they make a comment that it seems like there's too much blood for
yeah,
one
I was gonna
person.
bring that up. Could one body
how
really
can
produce
how
this
can that
much blood?
blood belong to one body? Which, of
Yeah.
course, it's not true. It belonged to.
I think
Ooh,
3,
multiple.
Or more.
I think Marsh
No,
said it was
it's-
like 2 or
Well,
3.
at least 7.
No, because it's
No.
one
Just
person per
that room.
spike.
Right.
It's one
Just-
person per
So
spike.
at least
But-
the eyes.
but they
probably,
went
So
to
one,
there's
different-
two.
They went to
like
different
6.
places.
It's not that important. It's at least like
They
6.
went to different places. They went to
Let's see if-
different places to spike him. They didn't just
Yeah.
do it in that one place. So it was like
Yeah.
2 or 3 bodies there, and then they took him somewhere else, and they did like
True.
2 or
Say
3
that.
bodies in another place.
I'm curious.
Huh?
Marsh says it, I believe, in
Marsh
the
says
epilogue
it.
or something.
Yeah. Or
It's
near
not
the
that
end.
important. It's not that important.
Actually-
This means everything to me right now.
It does.
We also saw in the epilogue of that chapter that Millennium fashion is that of suits and their architecture is of stained glass windows. That sounds familiar. Chapter 33.
Oh, I do want to mention in the epigraph for this is that it talks about, it says the lake that Fedek discovered is below us now. I can see it from the ledge. It looks even more eerie from up here with its glassy, almost metallic sheen. Is that a perpendicularity?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the well, isn't it?
It's not the well.
No, it's not
It's
the
not
well.
the well. Okay, it's the lake. I would guess that's a perpendicularity.
And
Yeah,
what happened to that perpendicularity?
If that was Ruin's perpendicularity, then it probably was turned into Adium.
What if he?
Ah.
Yeah. What if that was ATM 80's perpendicularity, and just when Rashek remade everything, he wanted ATM and just put it. Oh, that makes a lot of.
So he repurposed the perpendicularity into ATM.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is
be-
awesome. I love that. I love that a lot. That is awesome.
Because I think
It would
we
also explain why we only ever hear about Preservation's perpendicularity
Hmm
in the rest of the stories.
That's crazy.
I love that.
Well, I mean, he talks about. Well, I mean, Hoyd talks about. He's like, oh, now the only way for me to get, like, for people to get through will be like. Apparently, the Pits of Half Sin was the most stable perpendicularity.
Hmm Well, because this one
Oh.
now has a shard hidden in it. But
Right.
let's see what else we got. Could Vin in this chapter believes in the 11th metal? Could that be due to Ruin, like influencing her?
maybe, but I think also she's just believing more in Kelsier and just what he's telling her.
I was gonna say,
See, I
is that
think-
why Sazed has never heard of it? Because it's just a ruin tail.
Yes.
Just ruin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is why Sazed has never heard of it. Is
Yeah.
because it is just a ruin.
See, I
Yeah.
think Vin
Creative.
believing in Kelsier is Vin. Vin believing the 11th metal, I think that's ruin.
I mean, it could. There's no reason it can't be a little of both.
True.
I mean, just reinforcing each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because then when Kelsier dies, Ruin is like speaking to her like, "Oh, see, I told you."
And you know, it just occurred to me that that voice becomes much stronger. It seems to become stronger in her mind after that. So when Kelsier dies, part of her breaks a little bit more, and Ruin can get in a little bit better.
I also think it has to do with Kelsier's now like not Kelsier. Ruin is now like, okay, I don't need to worry about this Kelsier guy anymore. I can focus completely on Vin. She's the best chance I've got of escaping right now. Plus whatever Zane is doing. But he's now focused on so many pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah.
Couldn't he be the second Mistborn who was with the team who tried to kill Eland?
Oh,
Who's Zane?
I don't know.
Sean?
No,
That
so
was
Shan's
Shan.
team
Zane.
Oh,
had two.
Sorry,
No,
sorry.
Zane wouldn't be with Shan because Shan had two Ilarial.
yeah, those were their own
Two
Mistborn.
Ilarial Mistborn.
That would be a
Okay.
nice little teaser, though. That would be a nice
Yeah.
little
Cool,
thing.
but yeah.
That would
Sorry,
be
I heard
fun.
Oh, also,
like when they eventually, if they eventually do like a movie or like a TV show or whatever to make that Mistborn
Yeah.
Zane, I think that would be fun. But
Mm-hmm.
continue. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
how do you guys? Just so I don't have to go look it up. How do you spell Waylon?
Walin.
IN, and it's Wallen.
Wallen.
I
I'm not
looked it
getting
up.
it.
He's
That's
literally
accent.
he never shows up again. He never shows up
No,
again.
no.
already-
What's the? Did you already look him up on the Coppermind?
Yeah, he never shows up again.
What's the name of the guy that's in Well of Ascension that? No, you're right. It doesn't talk about him. What's the name of the guy that's he like shows up as a guard a couple random times throughout Well of Ascension and Hero of Ages?
Oh, he's at the end of this book. It's the guard that Vin saves.
No,
I don't
he's
remember.
a guard for Set. That okay. I have to.
Okay, we'll deal with that in Well of Ascension.
I'm not remembering this yet.
No.
Yeah. Anything else for 33?
My
The beginning of the
internet
fight.
is out.
Nope.
Did I have
Everybody good? Okay,
Yep.
I know you've got now something on your mind, but we need to focus on this book, okay?
You're good.
Uh-oh.
He
Yep.
said his internet was going out. And now he's back. Anything else for 33?
Now I'm looking to 34 now.
Yep. same.
Okay, 34. Dragon, are you back with us? No.
That's a no.
That's a no.
That is a no.
That's negative.
That's a solid no. This part all gets cut in post.
Do. Try to remember.
Swiggity's got his work cut out.
It's only 2
cut
hours
out for
long.
him to cut
Ah.
out stuff. Ah!
Ah. Dragon, you good? Okay. If he crashes, we'll give him one more chance.
Okay, I think I'm back. Maybe.
Okay. There we go.
Your audio's back at least.
Hey,
there we
Yeah,
go.
you're on your phone now. I was
My
just
wife
about to
went down, I think, so I'm just on my phone.
I was gonna recommend that.
Technical difficulty.
Anything else for 33 from you?
We don't hear you. No, we're good.
Okay, that's a move on. That's a carry on.
Okay, that's a carry on. So let's see, chapter 34. Ash fell from the sky. Kel does Zane's trick about pushing in every direction to appear floating. Kelsier
Zane's-
push. What was that?
Is it Zane's trick?
or
I mean-
Zane does Kelsier's trick.
because he does it first.
But Zane is the one who
I
literally
agree.
floats towards Vin, pushing and pulling in every direction. Like here, it's just this like I feel like Brandon's just like, oh, this is cool, and then with Zane, he's like, I can make this an entire thing.
Oh yeah, I thought about Wax in. I mean, way later on, but
Yeah.
Wax with this like kind of, I don't know how to describe
His,
that, pushing
his
in
bubble?
every direction. Yeah, bubble.
yeah, call it his steel bubble.
Yeah.
I guess that is kind of how it is, just like weaker. Well, speaking of Wax, here's the question of which is better with steel, is because we've got Kelsier who can steal and pull, who can push and pull on one object in different areas. And that's his savant level, whilst we've
20
got Axe who
24.
can separate the different segments of it. So
I think
there's
they have
What's
different.
the second? Sorry.
there's
Who's the
always
second
been
option?
this Wax because he was able to with the bullet in part in book 3 like separate the different parts of a bullet in his mind and get 3 different steel lines. So there's always this sort of like fan battle between who's better with steel, Wax or Kelsier.
I
I don't know
gotta
if
say
it's about being
Kelsier,
better. Yeah.
just because of everything he did in this part where he spun the
But
dowels and he,
it's also it's the combination. It's
Mhm.
that makes Kelsier's
You know,
so much
the pushing and pulling.
stronger is because it's the combination of the push and pull versus Wax, who is very good on pulling on very minute specific pushing on minute specific parts of things.
Mm-hmm. So I think
To
if
get
it
it
was
to
a
do it.
steel only, Wax probably has a better chance. But if
Yep.
it was steel and iron, Kelsier's gonna kick.
Well, Wax can't use iron, so. But
Yeah, true.
but I get what you mean.
Someday we might
Uh,
get to see this matchup actually happen.
True.
Maybe
Oh,
maybe next month even. Like seriously.
yeah. We've got Renew playing Dead Condra.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Poor
I do think that
Orsier.
that's so. I do find that so funny that he like just like sighs and then lays back down like.
Fuck.
Actually,
I'll s-
that's the last of Orser that we're ever gonna see, right?
No.
No, we've got him in the next chapter actually, like finally saying like, "Hi, I'm Orsier. I'm a Condra," and we get him in the beginning of Well of Ascension.
And then
And
goes
once
Yeah.
All the way up
once
until
it's
dog. Well,
Yeah,
becomes
before
a
that. Yeah.
it went
the
down.
dog is Tensoon.
yeah.
The dog.
Yeah.
That's
My
the
bad.
human from human to dog.
Yeah. My
The
bad.
Sooty pup.
Yeah.
I love that.
And the fact that he stays a dog, like even or dog wolf,
Mhm.
even like centuries after that. Is cool.
Maybe
'Cause
that's
he
like
likes
an
it.
homage to her. Yeah.
He does like it. He decided once he got used to it. He was like, I like being a dog.
That's
these
useful.
bones do have certain advantages.
Yeah.
hmm
God, there was a long time ago. I tried to get my girlfriend to read these, and I was like, "Hey, there's a talking dog." Was on a
Was that the clincher? Is that what made her read them?
She never did. No. That's why she's my ex now.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
Cosmere for
You're
life.
better off.
Yeah, same. But we've got Lord Ruler. Is he
Oh,
pure pewter, right?
What do you mean?
Him snapping Kelsier's neck so hard that he like.
Peter
Oh, yeah.
Oh, compounded
Oh.
pewter, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Compounded pewter,
completely forgot
probably.
he can
Yeah.
compound.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
He does.
Crap.
How he affects. That's why how he can affect like 100,000 people at once. He's
Yeah.
compounding brass. How he slaps so hard, compounding pewter. When when Vin is facing him, he like basically like strolls up. She's like running full pewter tilt, and he like walks up, strolls up to her, and he's like, "Wow, you're slow." And then he slaps her. He's like, "That's him compounding steel." Like this dude compounds everything.
Yeah,
It-
and his healing is him like when
Yeah.
he gets stabbed is
That's
him
gold.
compounding gold. It's
Actually,
compounding.
I kind of stopped and wondered, like when they stab him with the spear.
Spear.
Thank you. If you behead him, like what happens?
He would
would-
die.
Nope.
Yeah,
No.
They
yeah, because
They
not.
it's
talked
been
about how
it's
he's
been
been beheaded
tried.
before.
Yeah,
been
Yeah, but we have Wayne literally saying that if you can die doing gold unless you heal the entire thing instantly, you will die.
Yes,
Right.
and
Like,
that's
even
what he
like a
does.
Bullet to the head, unless you're like immediately healing the brain matter, like
That's
you will
what he
die.
Miles
does.
does that in the later books, but
Yeah.
the reason you can tell that that's what's happening is he's healing so fast that his body doesn't even have time to register pain. Otherwise, when he got stabbed, he'd be like, "Ow, that hurts. Okay, time to stab you now." You know?
Yeah. I'm good. Like, I think it's possible if, like, maybe in the split second that his head got sliced, his neck just like resealed. Maybe I can give you that. But I think most of that stuff, like him coming out of the building and his skeleton, that's all just historical pomp.
I
I
Maybe.
find it hard to
that
picture as
particular
well.
one, maybe.
Duke.
But
Um,
after a body is beheaded, it like your brain continues to function for a certain amount of time, so there's no reason to think that your
Lives.
nervous system wouldn't.
up to several minutes.
Yeah,
Right.
I know, but it would still have to connect to the body. This isn't Wolverine heal. Granted, it's technically stronger, but it's not like
Strong.
the head would need to like sink back into the neck, and it would need to like reheal. It's not like he can
Grow a new
heal
head.
his body back from his head.
He can. Well, he would heal his head back onto his body. His body is because remember, this is
Yeah,
healing is based on spiritual identity, not on just physical. So it's going to go from the largest his center of spiritual identity is where he's going to heal
Mhm.
from.
I know, but I'm saying like, yeah, I could see like if he's like, okay, if he's in like a guillotine, his head gets sliced, like in the quick moment where, like, they're disconnected, it just like reseals. Okay, I can give you that. But if like his head falls into a basket and
Yeah.
like his body picks up the head, puts it back up, no, sorry, no, I'm not seeing that. That's
Maybe if
way
you're a
too.
Bond
comical.
Just
Smith,
grow a new one.
you could bond.
Yeah,
them
he would
together.
just grow a new one from the base.
I don't think he can grow a whole new body.
They get arms and legs chopped off and has
Yeah, but that's an arm or a leg. This is an entire. I don't know.
yeah no
There's so much we don't know.
heads aren't
Yeah,
the same spiritual identity though. So
Yeah.
Okay,
There's so much that
ah.
we don't know about this.
kind of
about
going along
ferrochemical healing.
like the spiritual identity thing. Kel got like this side of his face like destroyed, right? And then
yeah,
this is big spoilers for the Cosmere, but the dude comes back with with a spike in his eye. Like, do you think that's related? Do you think he
No.
like sees himself now as
No.
like? There's gotta
No.
be.
No.
He gets a whole new body, and the new body is what gets.
Does
spiked.
he?
yes, he
Like
does.
we know it has scars, so maybe.
We know that spiritual identity affects when people come back. It affects how other bodies are healed.
Yeah, but we
Eh?
also see like the fused. Is it more like the heralds, or is it more like the feuds, or is it more like here's a body that we just put a spike through to staple this, and sort of some changes happen? We don't know. We don't know. We've got
Maybe he takes
one book
Wallen's
left.
body.
True, but and we have the fused, right? Their markings change when they take over a body because that's their spiritual identity. So
Yeah, but like the body doesn't change. Is
But
what
it does
like the
slightly.
it does change. That's
It
the
does
whole.
Yeah.
change.
yeah, but like
The
okay.
the markings change and the fit and the shape of the body changes slightly as well.
Okay.
So
But is that the same method that he's coming back? Like, we really don't know, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
but we do know about how it affects things. But we'll find.
And we don't know, it might be more similar to a returned.
Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Yeah.
We got 1 month left. Not even that.
Not
We got
even,
about
right?
Not
3
even
weeks.
that if you want to start reading the release chapters.
No.
Hey, by the time this episode is out, that book might be out because it's like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
That could very well be the case.
so we're living in
Damn.
the past right now.
Okay,
We are.
so
Well,
anything
is-
else that people wanna?
Yeah. Anything else?
I'm gonna have to go, actually.
Yeah, we're just about wrapping up.
All right.
Anybody got anything else?
So at what point do you think he really makes the transition between calling himself Kelsier and calling himself Thydakar?
Somewhere
sometime
around
well-
year 250.
How do we know that Thydakar isn't a name that's given to him by Rosharans? That's a very Rosharan name.
I think that Thydakar is the Rosharan pronunciation of Kelsier. Sounds very similar, like, but
Oh,
different.
maybe it is the Alephic
Thydakar.
pronunciation. Although that would be...
It gets dicey.
I gotta
Interesting.
think about
Yeah,
that
because
some more.
Kelsier woke up one day.
Let's
He's like,
think about
guys,
that.
guess what? I'm changing my name.
Why don't we think about that, and we could talk about that next week as well.
Or maybe that was
Yep.
the name of the guy whose body he gets stapled to.
Ooh, that could be cool.
Okay.
How do you get a Rosharan body, though?
Hey,
Just
there's
asking for a friend.
Rosharan World Hoppers.
We're just gonna fade the volume down as we're talking about all this.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Is there any final comments we would like to make on the last part of this book?
Sandal Lynch is just the best. Like, it always gets me. That's it.
I
Yeah.
am hope, the thing you can't destroy, no matter how hard you try.
Try
That's
not
all
to
I wanna
cry.
say.
Cry a lot.
All right.
Okay, well, I guess that will do it for this episode. We thank you all for listening into the spoiler section. And please remember, there's always another connection. Bye-bye.
Take it easy. See you later.
What
Oh
about-
yeah, you're good. I forgot.
I might be able to finish while we get started here.
Just do 30
Yeah.
chapters. We'll do the entire book in one podcast.
Then I'll definitely have time.
I feel like we could. It just wouldn't be as thorough.
Things
It's a
happen
lot.
to zombies.
You gotta read
magic,
this.
Circles.
Magic circles. He was
And
drawing the
that's
wrong
something
shape the whole
involved.
time.
And they're actually magic squares. Magic circles is
pseudo
ma-
squares.
magic circles is rhythmatist. I would like to point out.
I like this.
Yeah, it's a fun book.
I don't know.
That
Aeon
actually
Rayo
good boy.
is square with the lines, and
Yeah.
it's curved. So it's not technically a square because they're curved, and then it goes out and has more circles from Aeon
True.
Rayo. So that's the
See,
base.
we couldn't do like just one episode for the whole thing. We just can't.
That's
Oh,
more of
it's
a
a-
circle than a square.
That's more of a
Whoa. That's
an
square than a
octa-
circle.
Well, it's a what are they? It's a,
It's
there's a
everything.
name for it, and I
Uh-huh.
can't remember what it is.
I see
Yeah.
squares. I see circles.
It's a 16-sided figure.
I
Really,
see
just
stars.
name a shape that's not in there. I
Right,
dare.
exactly.
Star. More than a circle. A circle is round. That has points.
You in a suit, Swiggity?
What's this?
Said,
Why
are
are
you in
you-
a suit?
Oh boy, we're all here for the funeral.
Yay? Should I say? I wanted to say yay, but that doesn't sound appropriate. Nay.
Okay. Are we
If only
ready?
We had actually planned
I
that.
think we're good.
Are we ready?
Gathered
Okey-doke.
here today,
To celebrate a great man.
our
Eh.
Lord and Savior.
A
He was a
wonderful
man.
and powerful cognitive shadow.
His great legacy.
A lunatic
Good boy.
genius.
Okay. In
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.